What will you do when the going gets rough in your life? As almost inevitably it will. Do you have what it takes to handle the more difficult challenges of human existence? If the days of good fortune run out and dark, hard days begin, sooner or later everyone has to realize that life is indeed hard, that it is sometimes almost harder than one can handle. Yet it has to be handled.
With over 40 years of experience,
Yet it has to be handled. I heard the other day of a man who really hit rock bottom financially. He had a business failure and practically everything had going to pay off his debts. His home was up for sale. Assignment was made even of his personal belongings. Officers came by order of the court and took away his car, leaving him without his own transportation. That evening, bound for home, he was standing on a street corner with the thought of hailing a taxi. But it occurred to him that he was so reduced financially that this would be an extravagance. He was unfamiliar with the public transportation, but as he was standing there in deep discouragement, wondering what to do, a big truck drew up to the curb, and a nice-looking, friendly truck driver asked him if he would like a lift. One marvels at the way God works sometimes. This truck driver was exactly what the bankrupt man needed at that moment. But who would have thought it would happen in this way? As they drove along, the businessman sensed something in this truck driver that aroused his confidence. He opened up and poured out in detail all the difficulties he's faced, finding comfort in unburdening his mind in this manner. The truck driver was, to a degree at least, a philosopher. And he said, well, quote, well, my friend, it's too bad. That's life. It can treat you real rough, end quote. And then he used an unusual phrase. He said, quote, sometimes you've got to learn how to keep on keeping on. This indeed is one of the basic skills of living. Knowing how to be persistent, how to keep at it, or in the trucker's phraseology, how to keep on keeping on. And everyone can learn how to do just that. The best way is to discover the truth that the way to handle some ordeal in life, in difficulty, some ordeal or difficulty is to keep calm, to think rationally, to meditate, and then concentrate on the problem. Your mind is a powerful instrument. If it controls you, you'll not be victorious. But if you control it, you will be. However, a human being by his own unaided strength cannot accomplish this. Something else needs to be added. The distressed man mentioned above found a wonderful dynamic thought that held him steady, and he made his way back up. This thought changed everything, and it is one of the greatest anyone can ever grasp. It is embedded in the Bible, the wisest book ever written. And given what I know about human beings and about the Bible and about God, I will guarantee that this thought can help anyone under any circumstance keep on keeping on. Everyone would do well to hold it in consciousness until it absorbs into their unconsciousness, then live completely by it. It is found in Philippians chapter 4, verse 13, quote, I can do all things through myself. No, I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. Christ will help you keep on keeping on. Everyone at one time or another suffers a crisis or even a defeat. Quote, you can't win them all, end quote, someone said. What then do you do about the challenges you don't win? What about the harsh defeats that come? Physical defeats, for example. When you have trouble with your health, when your body begins to give up on you. What do you do about pain, sorrow, suffering, and hardship? What happens when you are defeated in some objective or in some ambition? Or when you see that some fond hope cherished for years, is not going to be realized? What happens when life seems to flow away from you rather than towards you? When things get mixed up and become unhappy? When you are having trouble with yourself and trouble with everything else? What do? The greatest measure of a human being isn't how he handles himself when things are going well, but how he handles himself when things are going badly, when defeat comes. The attitude a person has in defeat is a great issue in life, for it determines whether one is able to overcome difficulties and be victorious again. Norman writing, I have in my library a book entitled Success Through a Positive Mental Attitude by Clement Stone and Napoleon Hill. It is a good book, and it is a story that I will retell here. It is a story about two racehorses. When I was a boy, the greatest racehorse in the United States was generally considered to be Man o' War. Indeed, never had there been a racehorse to equal him. I saw him race once. It was superb poetry in motion. What a magnificent animal he was. And the jockey who rode him almost seemed to be a part of the horse, so that the two moved as one. Watching Man o' War was an unforgettable sports experience, like the time, years ago, when I saw Jackie Robinson at Ebbets Field steal second base, then third, and finally home. Such experiences you never forget. Well, at any rate, Man o' War had it all his own way for several years. Then another horse began to challenge him, and it is the story of the other horse named John P. Greer that is related in the book. You've never heard of John P. Greer. That is not surprising, for he had only a momentary fame. Well, this John P. Greer looked pretty good, people said. Quote, he's a great horse. He can rival Man o' War, end quote. So they finally got the two of them in a race. They both got away cleanly at the starting post. They were even at the first quarter. They were even at the second quarter. They were even at the third quarter. They were even at the eighth pole. Then the spectators leaped to their feet, electrified. John P. Greer was edging ahead. Man o' War was facing the challenge of his life. But the jockey sitting on top of Man o' War did some thinking. He had never hit Man o' War with a whip. The great horse had always had sufficient motivation without the whip. And the jockey wondered, shall I hit him with the whip? The thought came to him, if I don't hit him, he's going to be second. So he hit him with the whip. And this startled Man o' War. He had never felt a touch of a whip before. And under the shock of it, Man o' War became a ball of fire and surged across the finish line, 7 lengths ahead, still champion. Well, so far so good, but that is not the main point of the story. The point is what happened to John P. Greer. That race was to be his one moment of glory, but he was defeated. Now, I'm no authority on the psychology of a horse, but it must be similar to that of people. Because this horse, John P. Greer, never challenged any great racehorse again. Apparently, his defeat by Man o' War left him hurt inside. Deep down, he was a soft horse. He couldn't take it. His performance after that race was weak, half-hearted, apathetic. If he had been a positive thinking horse, he would have said to himself, quote, I almost beat that Man o' War. Next time, I'll really take him over, end quote. But he was soft. He didn't have in him the makings of a champion. He was the victim of his weakness. He let defeat him. What are you going to do with defeat? Are you going to let it defeat you? Or are you going to make it a positive, creative experience from which you can extract much know-how and wisdom from which you can gain strength to proceed? The individual who is placed at the center of his thinking, the wonderful affirmation, quote, I can do all things through Christ, end quote, can recover from any defeat and handle any situation. One time, Norman writing, at a convention in Chicago, I talked with a man who had been awarded the honor as the leading producer of the year in this industry. This man had an outgoing personality, if I ever saw one. He said to me, quote, I want to tell you something, Norman. I've read all the books about how to get ahead, and believe me, I've gotten ahead. I'm now the biggest producer in the industry, and I'm on my way to realizing my great ambition. What is your ambition? I asked. To make a couple of $1 million? Fred, I ventured on to remark, It's all right to make money, but you don't want to make that the big ambition of your life. Fred said, now, don't give me any of that religious stuff. I'm going places. There was something engaging about this man, although I thought he had his values mixed up. After meeting him that day, I would hear from him from time to time. And he would tell me, I've done this big deal, I've sold this, I've accomplished this, and so forth. But then I noticed in his letters that the jewel he once had began to die down. He finally wrote me saying, I don't know what's wrong with me. I've messed up everything. I've made one mistake after another. I've lost a lot of money. I'm a long ways from that 2 million, end quote. And with an attitude of self-pity, he continued, quote, I'm a no account. I don't amount to anything. I'm stupid. I'm a fool, end quote. I decided this called for strong talking on my part. I called Fred on the telephone. Fred, quote, Fred, when you let disappointment and defeat get you down, you just make things that much worse for yourself, end quote. And I suggested a series of steps for him to follow. Number 1, stop putting yourself down. There is a lot that is right in you. You have the same capacity as you had before. Clean your mind of your failures and mistakes and start respecting yourself. Number 2, stop the self-pity. Start thinking of what you have left instead of dwelling on what you have lost. List your assets on a sheet of paper. Number 3, stop thinking about yourself all the time. You will not have a continuing flow of abundance if your thought is only for yourself. Number 4, Norman quotes an 18th century German poet, Goethe, quote, he who has a firm will molds the world to himself, end quote. Almighty God put a tough thing into human beings called the will. Use it. Number 5, have a goal and put a timetable on it. Number 6, last but not least, in fact, it should be first, commit your life to Jesus. And then every morning and every night, say aloud these wonderful words, quote, I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me, end quote. A while later, Fred called me and said, I want you to know that I never really lived until I took Jesus Christ as my partner. He has given me new priorities, and with them new abilities and insights have come. He has shown me how to turn my defeats into victories. Fred had constructively handled the defeat. He had learned to keep on keeping on. I think often of my longtime friend who died only recently, Gus Baring. He was the manager of a large hotel in Chicago, the Sherman House. I often stayed there. The hotel is gone now, and Gus once told me of a significant story that began at a barbers' convention at the Sherman House. The leading barbers of the country were there, and they decided, on the advice of their publicity department, to put on a stunt. These enterprising barbers went down to Madison Street, which was said to be a kind of tenderloin area in Chicago, and they found a derelict, the most unfortunate specimen of humanity they could find. They took him to the Sherman House, gave him a bath, a massage, a haircut, and a manicure. Then they bought him a suit of clothes of fine quality. They put on him an expensive shirt and tie, beautiful shoes on his feet. They gave him a fine overcoat and a hat that sat jangling on the side of his head, gloves, and a walking stick. They took his picture before and after. They put it in the paper as an example of what the barbers could do to change a man. He made quite an impression at the barbers' convention. He was living high. Then the convention ended and everyone forgot all about this man, all except Gus. Gus saw a man transformed. He thought, this is wonderful. I will follow through. So he said to the man, you've been a bum, but now you're a gentleman. Would you like to remain a gentleman? Oh, yes, Mr. Barron, I sure would, the man said. All right, said Gus, I'm going to give you a job right here in this hotel. You and I and God together will make you a man. I'd like you to start work right now. Well, Mr. Baring, the man said, I've got a couple of things to attend to. How would tomorrow morning at 8 o'clock do? A shadow of doubt crossed Mr. Baring's mind, but he agreed. And of course, at 8 o'clock the next morning, the man wasn't there. And he wasn't there at 8 o'clock that night, the next night. So Mr. Bering, like the Good Shepherd, hunting his lost sheep, went down into the alleyways off the Madison Street, and he found the man. He was dead drunk, lying on some newspapers. His expensive hat off to one side. His fine clothes rumpled and soiled. This barber specimen of a changed man, Mr. Bering. This barber specimen of a changed man. Mr. Bering picked him up, brought him back to the hotel, and put him to bed. The next morning he said, "Now, my friend, I'm not going to let you go. There is a man in this hotel, a bellhop, who has been through an experience similar to yours. I want him to talk to you." And the bellhop told the derelict, "Gus Bering picked me up as he did you. I was as you are. I found the secret of a changed life from him. I put my life in the hands of Jesus Christ. I asked him to take me and make me over. And I really gave myself to him. I'm only a bellhop, but I have a wife, I have children, and a home that's paid for." And Mr. Bering put in, "The love and respect of everyone on the staff." And Mr. Bering put in, "The love and respect of everyone on the staff and of the guest." The derelict looked at the bellhop and said, "Tell me what to do." "Just say, 'I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me.'" And it happened again. The man was changed inside. He is no model of style now, but he is clean. He's decent and successful and respected. What you are inwardly determines how you handle things outwardly. If inside you are strong, then come what may of pain, difficulty, sorrow, trouble, or defeat, you can keep on keeping on. Chapter 1. Thank you, Norman Vincent Peale. Wow, what a book.